Can you share with us a case study of when you were successfully able to make a dent in the corporate world despite the naysayers you may have encountered?
One of my early jobs at Apple was to run the Apple server channel program. And the way I came into that job was really kind of odd. I was going to lunch and I ran into the general manager of the Americas division, and he was literally walking around like this with a spreadsheet in front of his hand. And then when he saw me, he sort of made eye contact, and I walked over and he said, "I have a business here that's $2 million in revenue at 50% gross margin. And every other part of our business is diminishing in gross margin. Do you think you could help me figure out how to grow this $2 million product line?" And I had no idea.
Quite a question, bumping into someone in the hall.
Right? But I was thinking, well, the answer is yes. The answer is surely yes. I'm sure I can help you with this. And actually, I remember walking back with the spreadsheet, just like he'd been holding it, into my boss's office and said, "Do you know what he's talking about?" Because I didn't. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Yeah, actually, he's been trying to tag everyone with that project, and everyone's been running because they think it's a dog project." And I was like, all right, well, I'll take it on and see what I can do. And no one believed it was going to be successful. When I called my other colleagues in other parts of divisions and saying, "Hey, I just got tasked with this," they're like, "Oh, I ran away from that." And I was thinking, well, this can't be that hard. I'll just see what I can do to help. And at some point, I called every party I could think of, started triangulating what the issues were, sort of came up with what I thought a proposed solution was, and then presented it to the general manager and all of his leadership team. The business right then was about $2 million, and I thought I could figure out how to double, triple, quadruple that, and I presented what I thought was a coherent plan. And I expected that to be the end. And the general manager said, "Well, why don't you lead it?" And I thought, and I even said to him in the meeting in front of all these people, I said, "Well, I've never run sales, so why would you ask me to do it? And I've never run a channel program, so I'm clearly not qualified." He said, "Actually, you have an idea and you have a real passion around how to solve it. That makes you qualified." And within 18 months, that business had grown from 2 million to 180 million. And in fact, Steve Jobs came back and I had a chance to present in front of him this huge success that had happened. But it was funny because later on I ran into the general manager and I said, "Hey, how come you ever gave me that project? It just seems like such a weird thing for you to believe in me." And he said, "Actually, no one else believed in it. So if I hadn't given it to you, everyone else would have caused it to fail. You were the only one who actually expressed an interest. So of course it made sense for me to hand it to you." And I thought, what a wonderful object lesson of leadership today. If we could only just really look based on interest and passion and not based on past credentials or degrees or pedigree. It was probably my first example of what this new model of leadership could look like in the social world.
And how did it go over with Steve Jobs when you did the presentation? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I get to the Steve Jobs moment. In fact, all my division leaders are all sitting on the side of the room, and we're doing this sort of business case for our like each business team comes and kind of presents their business case with the idea, of course, that we want to get more money and be able to stay on to do things. And my team decided that since I just had this big success, I would be the one to present it. Yeah, and I stood there in my little navy Ann Taylor suit and a little bow tie and tried to act so appropriate. And he walks in with his flip-flops and jeans and like a ratty old t-shirt, and he puts his feet on the desk and he crosses his arms and he's like, so I just went up there like super earnest and tried to present it. And so my first slide shows up and it says something like Apple Server Channel Manager or something, because that was about my title. And he says, "The channel, we don't need that." Really? And I was like, uh-oh. And I remember looking over at my colleagues thinking, somebody know what to do now?
Step up.
And they all kind of gave me this little shrug of a look. And I thought, okay, I'll just go through the rest of the business proposal. But it was an interesting moment because he was really challenging how we would be doing things in the future, which I thought was interesting because I'd been looking at research that said that customers wanted to have a closer relationship with vendors. And I was thinking, no, the only way we're actually making money right now is through the channel. So I was trying to figure out how to fortify the channel. And he was looking around the corner a little bit more to say, how do we figure out how to have that intermediary relationship cut out so we can actually have that intimacy with the consumer. It was probably the first time where I really had to think more about how to think further out with the data that I was being presented.
So that was a valuable lesson, right?
It was, of course it was.